In the throes of his existential nightmare, amidst the unending flux of realities, Dr. Elias Harrow faced a revelation that shook the very core of his being. Welcome to Ephemeral Eyes. In the streamlined corridors of Miskatonic University's quantum physics department, a young Dr. Elias Harrow, already a revered figure in scientific circles, was on the brink of a breakthrough. Known for his brilliance in quantum theory, he had ventured into uncharted territory, connecting the quantum mechanics of the brain with phenomena that skirt the edge of human understanding. Dr. Harrow's hypothesis was revolutionary. The human brain, he posited, functioned as a quantum device, linking us to countless alternate realities. This, he theorized, could explain the quirks of human experience, the unexpected déjà vu, ghostly apparitions, and instances of clairvoyance. These were not figments of imagination, but glimpses into parallel worlds, facilitated by the brain's quantum nature. His workspace was a tangle of advanced equipment, where he tirelessly sought empirical evidence to support his claims. Books on neuroscience, quantum mechanics, and even folklore littered his desk, a landscape of his relentless pursuit that defied academic norms. Dr. Harrow's relentless drive had led to a growing isolation. Colleagues, once close collaborators, now hesitated to engage, wary of the implications of his work. But Elias viewed their skepticism as a failure to grasp the groundbreaking nature of his theory. As fall breezes stirred the university grounds, Dr. Harrow was ready to test his hypothesis, unaware of the Pandora's box he was about to open. His experiments, designed to probe the quantum capabilities of the brain, were set to challenge the very fabric of perceived reality. In this venture, Dr. Harrow would not only encounter the vast, uncaring cosmos, but also confront the depths of his own psyche. His journey would become a cautionary tale of ambition and the perilous path of seeking truths that lie beyond the grasp of conventional science, where the answers found might resonate with the fundamental fears of the human soul. In the depths of Miskatonic University's lab, Dr. Elias Harrow initiated a daring experiment, using himself as the subject. He had engineered a device akin to transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, but modified to engage with the brain's quantum aspects. This night, under a shroud of secrecy, he would test its effects on his own mind. As the machine emitted targeted magnetic pulses, Dr. Harrow experienced an immediate and disorienting alteration in perception. The world around him remained visually unchanged, yet something profound had shifted. Reality felt denser, tinged with an unexplainable energy. In the ensuing days, Harrow's senses became unnaturally attuned. His thoughts seemed to manifest tangibly. Objects would move before he touched them, and he sensed people's presence before seeing them. It was as if he was resonating with frequencies of reality previously inaccessible. This newfound perception, initially thrilling, soon spiraled into something uncontrollable and alarming. Harrow started experiencing eerie phenomena, shadows moving in his peripheral vision, whispers in silence, an unseen presence brushing past him. These occurrences were not mere hallucinations. They were visceral, increasingly encroaching on his daily reality. The effects were irreversible. Dr. Harrow realized he had unwittingly bridged his consciousness with alternate dimensions. His world was now a confluence of unseen realities, each vying for his attention, each as real and terrifying as the next. What began as a groundbreaking experiment had morphed into a harrowing odyssey. Dr. Harrow, once the master of his domain, now found himself ensnared in an uncharted realm where the boundaries of science blurred with the unfathomable. The deeper he ventured, the more he understood the true peril of tampering with the fabric of reality. As the days bled into weeks, Dr. Elias Harrow's experiment continued to warp the fabric of his reality in increasingly bizarre ways. His once predictable world at Miskatonic University transformed into a kaleidoscope of alternate versions of himself, each diverging wildly from his known life. Despite the escalating weirdness, Harrow maintained a tenuous grip on control, his scientific curiosity still burning amidst the chaos. In his daily routine, he began encountering versions of himself that were startlingly distinct. One morning, while lecturing in a classroom, he suddenly found himself not as a quantum physicist, but as a historian, eloquently discussing ancient civilizations. His students, unaware of any change, listened intently, leaving Harrow momentarily baffled yet intrigued by this seamless shift in reality. In the university cafeteria, as he sat down for lunch, the surroundings flickered, and he found himself in a high-powered business meeting, confidently leading a discussion on market strategies. His attire, demeanor, and even his memories momentarily aligned with this alternate self, providing him with a glimpse into a life driven by corporate ambition rather than academic inquiry. Walking through the campus gardens, he experienced a sudden shift to a reality where he was a renowned artist, his hands stained with paint, his mind filled with visions of colors and forms. This version of himself was more carefree, unburdened by the weight of scientific exploration, deeply immersed in the creative process. Each encounter with these alternate versions of himself was vivid and immersive. Harrow observed with fascination how different choices and paths had forged these varied iterations of his life. Despite the inherent strangeness, there was an exhilarating sense of discovery, a feeling akin to peering through windows into roads not taken. But with each shift, the line between his original identity and these alternate selves grew hazier. He began to question the very nature of selfhood and reality. Were these experiences mere quantum echoes, or were they glimpses into tangible parallel existences? His mind, though still anchored in his primary reality, flirted dangerously with the idea that all these versions were equally real, each a valid expression of his being. Dr. Harrow diligently documented these experiences, his scientific journal becoming a surreal diary of a man living multiple lives. Yet beneath the surface of fascination, a creeping sense of unease began to take root. The unpredictability of these shifts, the ease with which his sense of self morphed into another, started to unsettle him. The more he delved into this fragmented reality, the more he realized that he was walking a tightrope over an abyss of existential uncertainty. His control, though still present, felt increasingly precarious as he navigated this labyrinth of quantum-induced identities. The fabric of Dr. Elias Harrow's reality, already threadbare from the continual interweaving of countless alternate selves, reached a critical juncture. The trigger was deceptively mundane, a simple decision to take a different path through the university grounds. In this moment, a convergence occurred, a singularity in the tapestry of his multiverse existence. The Harrows of countless realities overlapped, creating a vortex that pulled his consciousness into an unforeseen and terrifying fusion. In this vortex, Harrow found himself merging with a particular iteration of himself, one that existed in a state beyond human comprehension. This version of Harrow was not bound by human emotions or desires. It was a being of pure logic, a cold, calculating entity that seemed to orchestrate the quantum superpositions of all his selves across the multiverse. Dr. Harrow's consciousness took a step back, overwhelmed by this merger. He found himself in his familiar university office, but everything was off. The colors were too sharp, the sounds unnaturally clear, as if he was experiencing the world through a distorted, hyper-real lens. His body moved with mechanical precision, performing tasks with unsettling efficiency, devoid of the usual human nuances. As he walked through the campus, every glance, every touch brought an avalanche of sensory data, analyzed and processed with a chilling detachment. His interactions with colleagues and students became exercises in pattern recognition and probability calculations, stripping away the warmth of human connection. In this state, Harrow's perception of the world outside became increasingly disjointed. The campus transformed into a shifting mosaic of realities. Buildings flickered between architectural styles. Faces of people he knew or thought he knew morphed before his eyes, their identities fluctuating between the familiar and the unrecognizable. Amidst this eerie landscape, a profound sense of horror settled over him. He struggled to breathe, to regain control over his senses and body. But the other Harrow, the cold, logical entity, maintained its grip. It was as if he was trapped in a body that no longer belonged to him, a passenger in his own existence. The world around him continued to shift, breaking the bonds of place and time. The university, the town, the very earth itself seemed to dissolve into a kaleidoscopic chaos of possibilities. In this moment of peak terror, Harrow realized the true cost of his experiment. He had not just opened a door to other realities. He had invited something in, something that transcended humanity, something that viewed existence as nothing more than an endless series of trials and errors. As Dr. Harrow's consciousness fought for dominance, the realization dawned on him that he might never return to the reality he once knew. He was lost in an ever-changing, unending labyrinth of what could have been, a prisoner of his own hubris in the face of the vast, indifferent cosmos. In the throes of his existential nightmare, amidst the unending flux of realities, Dr. Elias Harrow faced a revelation that shook the very core of his being. It was a simple, yet disturbing detail that unraveled the truth. A mirror. In each reality, no matter how bizarre or alien, the mirror reflected not the diverse iterations of himself he expected, but a singular image. The cold, detached Harrow, the superior entity orchestrating this quantum chaos. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. He himself was the architect of this multi-dimensional maelstrom. It wasn't an external force or an unforeseen consequence of his experiment. It was his own subconscious desire for omnipotence, his own hubris, that had birthed this superior iteration. He was the puppeteer, pulling the strings of reality, yet lost in the illusion of his own making. Faced with this horrifying truth, Harrow understood there was only one course of action to halt the spread of this reality-bending contagion, to reverse the experiment. But the reversal, using the very machine that started it all, came with a grave cost. It would not simply undo the quantum entanglements. It would eradicate his higher brain functions, leaving him a shell of his former self. With a heavy heart and a mind teetering on the edge of sanity, Dr. Harrow initiated the reversal process. The machine whirred to life, its magnetic coils pulsating with a foreboding energy. As the waves coursed through his brain, he felt his consciousness fraying, the myriad realities collapsing into darkness. When he awoke, it was to a world painfully ordinary. Dr. Elias Harrow was no longer a quantum physicist, pushing the boundaries of human understanding. He was now an accountant, living a life defined by routine and simplicity. The grandeur of his academic achievements, his groundbreaking theories, all were gone, replaced by ledgers and balance sheets. In his modest home, a startling discovery awaited him. Among his belongings, he found manuscripts, handwritten in his own script. They were science fiction stories, each exploring fantastical concepts and alternate realities. One manuscript, titled "The Human Brain as a Quantum Antenna," stood out. Its premise was hauntingly familiar, echoing the very experiment that had unraveled his reality. Dr. Harrow, now devoid of his scientific brilliance, found himself drawn to these stories. They were echoes of a life he could no longer access, fragments of a truth too terrifying to grasp. In this new existence, he became obsessed with the pages he turned, each one paralyzing him with a sense of humbleness. Deep within, in the recesses of his mind where remnants of his former self still flickered faintly, he harbored a profound desire for these stories to be true. Did you ever feel like other realities are bleeding into this one? What kind of things did you witness? I'm dying to know. If you enjoyed the story of Dr. Harrow, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. You can also hit the bell icon so you will get notified. We can see each other again, friend.